This is a new chapter and essentially a new beginning. I was trained in a new school in the realm and area of law of attraction. I see myself as a mechanic of evolution. What I know how to do is resonant with a fourth grade level. I think you could bring about the Venus Project with a fourth grade level understanding. Essentially, you don't need a lot of schooling, you don't need a lot of training to get people organized to where they need to be. And this is going to be a chapter on new emotion and the way you can use emotion to begin to trek your own path. The way structures are set up are supposed to be to benefit and help people. I'm going to reflect the American system where we are our government. And if things aren't functioning within our government the way we want them to, then we have the power to form teams to begin to bring about change. I've learned that the world, because I'm in it, reflects my creativity. You know, when you're around certain people, there are certain auras of understanding and life experience. These are the points of attraction that a person is able to carry out. And it's not going to be Republican or Democrat who's going to change. What's going to change is you. So let's reflect on what government is. Government is a bunch of people, is a social structure or a system, an organization of human relationships. Now, Jacques Fresco says that all of the earth should be for human resources. And essentially, it is. We have humans, and the ones who are in positions of power are the ones who seemingly have control over it. But you're not governed by the laws of what a bunch of people put onto paper. You're governed by the laws of the universe, the law of attraction and the law of vibration. Through this understanding, we come to the conversation of what is abundance and what is scarcity. And if you're really able to follow this, it is the whole purpose of this chapter to convince you of one thing, and that is the fluidity of all things. And the fluidity comes through a practical means. For example, money is appropriated by the government for certain tasks, but you could get yourself into those positions of government and begin to steer the way the finances roll. Now, there are multiple ways of stirring the structure, but government already has money appropriated. This is where Matthew Lesko runs around with the dollar sign saying there are 17,000 grants. And if you read about Matthew Lesko, he says this money's already been appropriated. It's for the taking. Then you go to the USA.gov website and they say they try to discourage you from taking their grants. The division here is in emotion. If you have the emotional wherewithal to follow your idea out, then the structure will accommodate you being into it. Now, with this new emotion, we as the Venus Project team working on Project Neptune have all the resources of the world at our fingertips, just not the finance. I don't want to cause a division anymore between what is a financial based society and what is a resource based society, because essentially they can merge together. They are essentially the same thing, as money is a means to getting a resource. So you can find abundance through finance, or you can find abundance through any other way. But the government, which is just the relationship of people in the United States, appropriates money, grants, for certain purposes. And with a team as strong as the Venus Project, as resource rich as the Venus Project, we can begin to come in and appropriate that money for exactly what we want to do. I was like a kid on the candy shop going to the government website that appropriates money for grants. Now, there are systems in place to help every person, which is what the public sector is basically for. The best functioning of human relationships. So, some ideas, this is going to be how we're going to start to work, is taking on projects and giving it the Venus Project stamp. Taking the money available to bring about resources that have compounding interest, that are able to do more with less, are able to do more with conservation. Because I believe in 2014, what Jacques Fresco said, when the majority of the world is ready to change their thinking and change their minds, I believe we're at that advent right now. I am to the capitalistic world, when I am swimming around in that, I feel as an eternal being that I have an extra gear that we can step up and we can begin to bring about a higher standard of living for more people and exit some of these conversations that people have been having. So this is how the new emotions work, is forming projects. Let's say the project is given by the Department of Agriculture to do agricultural resources. And let's divide these into our own departments of basic human need: food, water, air, shelter, and community. Agriculture fits into the hierarchy of need of food and water. So why can't we use the arm of the Venus Project supporters to begin to dilute some of the ideas of what the system has been and make it subservient to a larger, higher order consciousness that takes into account the rights of every human in the world to have the highest standard of living. The process would go, we would pick out a project and we would assign people to it, and we would appropriate our own money for the grants to begin to do the most with the resources allotted. That is how we begin to get the lazy out of our threshold of belief. This would be putting some work and some energy into fueling the idea of the Venus Project. And from these projects, we would begin to give back to humanity at large, to our posterity, by gathering the best state-of-the-art resources to come in, begin to bring about the best way of creating the future for people like Kyle.